So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our Navamsha video of the week. And yes, it's almost the next week, but finally found time to make this Navamsha video. So today we're going to be focusing on, so we did Sun, Moon, Venus. So we're going to focus on Mercury being in the sixth house of the D9 Navamsha. And what happens when, it's in the sixth house of your D9 Navamsha, not the birth chart, D9 Navamsha chart, which is the chart really seen for the marriage path of a person. It's seen for the dignity of the planet, the strength of the planets. It's pretty much another form of your birth chart, is what the person inside is like and how the person or how the grahas really operate internally. Okay. And if you have never heard of Navamsha before, which is one of the most important charts in Vedic astrology, just go to astrologycares.com in the shop section. You'll get the report from option 5 and beyond. And so with Mercury in the sixth house, it's actually an excellent placement. With Mercury in the sixth house, see, Mercury is a problem solver. Mercury is the accountant. Mercury keeps like records of things. Mercury knows how to discriminate between things. What is right? What is wrong? What am I trying to discriminate against? What am I trying to reject in my life or accept in my life? Okay. And if you just understand the chart from a normal zodiac belt perspective, the original zodiac belt, which starts from the sign of Aries, Mercury is in its own original place, which is Virgo. Forget the signs, whatever sign, it can be in Pisces. The first thing you have to understand inside you, that Mercury is indeed in a home that it considers its office. Like, imagine if this is my house, okay? But this house has moved on after, let's say, 2.5 hours, right? And I'm sitting, let's say, in the sign of Sagittarius. I'm sitting in the sign of Aquarius in the sixth house. Okay, so I am in a different house, but I'm in the exact same land, that exact same square footage of the house I was in. So naturally, something will make me feel like home. Even though the structure has changed, I'll feel at home. I'll feel like, the room is not where it was, the bathroom is not where it was, but man, I'm taking the same turn, the same, traffic lights to get to this point, the same neighbors, everything is the same, but yeah, the house structure's changed. So, okay, fine, I'll live in this. I'm comfortable in this. So with sixth house of Navamsha being the house of divorce, disagreements, obstacles, fights, enemies, okay? And 50% of the time, someone's spouse becomes their enemy. That's where you're ending up in court, okay? So here, Mercury has the ability to negotiate itself out of situation. Now, on the most common way you can think of it is when a person gets into a fight, gets into an argument. When argument occurs between husband and wife, which house do you think activates itself? Okay, why am I blur? Okay, there I'm more focused. So which house do you think is becoming active whenever any dispute happens? Forget your marriage or marriage in general. Any dispute happens with the neighbor, any dispute happens with anyone, the original sixth house always just gets activated. You fought with someone, sixth house is activated. So as soon as that fighting starts, that disagreement starts, whoever's sitting in that sixth house will automatically just turn on, like they're sleeping and they're awake. Oh, what's happening? Okay, this is happening. Okay, I need to do my job here. So when that disagreements happen, Mercury will always try to negotiate its way out. Meaning a person will be able to Be a business person, be an accountant, keeping clear tracks of what happened. And this person will be able to, have some sort of a discernment that, hey, listen, yes, I know what I did was wrong, but listen, the reason why it happened is because of this. And remember when this happened with you, and I was completely okay with it. I was fine with it. Look, I forgive you on that. You see how they're keeping accounts and they're bringing the accounts forward. So here, Mercury does its job. Now, how well it's doing is that job of taking care of the argument, taking care of, uh, being quite a negotiator, that's when we look at the other aspect, the sign aspect. And I'm not even going to Navamsha Nakshatra right now. I think that's you can even ignore that right now. But just by looking at the sign, okay, like for example, let's say you take debilitated Mercury in the sixth house, what happens here is that a person, through arguments, when arguments happens, their ability to communicate is to escape that situation. Any planet in Pisces becomes an escapist. Because remember, Pisces is a natural moksha karaka sign. It is the highest of the moksha karaka because it is the last sign, the 12th house, where devotion of Venus gets exalted, okay, and logic of Mercury fails. So when this person already knows that, okay, if the argument occurs, I may not be so good at it, but then Mercury's still there working. Mercury's like, okay, don't try to become the mediator here. Try to say things through which you can just escape the situation quickly. If you've got Mercury in Aries, okay, in the sign of Aries, Mercury is going to be very forthcoming on to listen, you did this wrong, but guess what? This happened as well with you, and I forgive you. And this happened here, and you need to get past this thing. That fiery communicative nature comes in, and we're not, like I said, we're not even looking at the nakshatra. We're just looking at the Mercury. Is that it's quickly going to try to resolve it. Because why quickly? Just think of that all the three nakshatras, if you have studied Ashwini, Bharani, Kartika, it wants to quickly bring a resolution into play, yet by being blunt. So sign will determine, and let's say, okay, if Mercury is with Saturn, okay, for example, Mercury is with Saturn in the sixth house of Navamsha. So now you got to use your quick logic. This person, when they get into any kind of a disagreement, argument, they can be very shut. They'll be very shut down. They'll be very secretive about not even wanting to discuss and resolve that. They would want to pretty much cut it out, cut things out with Saturn. They will become rebellious about why their position is correct and the other person's position is wrong. Okay? With, let's say, Moon was with Mercury in the sixth house. They will try to be sneaky. They will try to, even manipulate what they say and how they say to solve that issue of that argument in the marriage. Okay? So with planets, the attributes of the planets will be influenced. On the other hand, let's say Mercury is hemmed between two malefics in the sixth house. So for example, Mars is in the fifth house, Saturn is in the seventh house in Navamsha, Mercury is in the sixth house. Arguments occur. Mercury gets awakened. When you say something, it makes it worse. Because of the fact you become very nervous about, okay, what do I do now? How do I say this now? Oh God. And then they'll quickly say something without having that quick connection in the brain, so they can bring the right words out. When they say something, because Mercury is communication, when they say something in the argument, they'll make the argument even worse. Something that could have been resolved within 40 seconds with a good Mercury can escalate that issue to a degree that wasn't even predicted at that particular moment. And then the other thing we also see with this particular Mercury is that since Mercury represents duality, Mercury is, remember, Mercury represents the sunrise and sunset time. Why? Because dark is happening, going into light. And then during sunset time, light is going into darkness. Mercury rules those hours. So what it shows with Mercury's quality, that it's able to change. It's very neutral. So when this person, whether they're in the marriage, they can have Mercury in the sixth house. They can be working, dealing with children, dealing with family, okay? Because anytime communication comes out, Mercury will start becoming activated as is in your birth chart. Navamsha, Trimsamsa, Sastyamsha, they all become activated, and through that voice comes out, depending upon what subject you're talking about. So here, a person with Mercury in the sixth house is able to change themselves. They're able to change themselves when they're trying to communicate. They can maneuver their way. Like, okay, this person is angry. I'm about to be angry because of what they just said to me. No, let me just change this. Instead of the sunset, let me go towards the sunrise. So you will see when things happen in front of them in an aggressive way, they'll be more calm about it. If something is calm in front of it, they may actually be more aggressive one. So these are the qualities you have to understand with Mercury. And also, with this Mercury, you will see that this person does very well when they travel. When they travel, especially let's say an argument happens, they take off in the car, they're traveling, moving somewhere, they go out on a walk. Suddenly the situation actually dissolves itself. Forget even their speech. Mercury just simply has to just walk or travel. So let's say you are fighting and you're about to leave for the airport. Something occurred. You left the faucet on and the whole bathroom is flooded and your spouse is angry at you. You simply say yes, 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 fine, and you leave. When you travel, it'll automatically start dissolving that issue with Mercury. But one of the best things about Mercury is that this person is able to negotiate out of any obstacles they have. Especially and this is only because I'm only talking about Mercury in the sixth house. I just gave you some examples. You see, now I know people will say, well, if planets through signs and houses, can tell us about astrology, everybody would be a great astrologer. You shouldn't be talking about planets through signs and houses. The whole chart has to be seen. Well, yes, I know that, Mr. Moron, but guess what? Somebody has to learn what a planet does in a certain sign and house before they can do the whole thing holistically. Yes, the whole chart is a yoga. We know that. Because I know a lot of people, some of you put those comments in that, oh, why are you just talking about one planet? One planet doesn't change anything. You have to see the whole chart. Yeah. Is everybody an expert on YouTube who's watching, a stranger watching Mercury in the sixth house who was just introduced to astrology maybe a week ago? No. That's why I'm going back with this microscopic step by step of these planets. Once you learn that, once you learn all the planets of sign and houses, once you learn the nakshatras, then you learn the yogas, then you learn the dashas, it automatically starts clicking in you what Mercury will do in the sixth house while Saturn is in the third house. What is this holistic view of this chart? That comes in later, so I don't want to hear that. Okay? But anyway, Mercury in the sixth house most of the time is very good. Even a person will, especially this person, is very careful with debt. They don't just want to take on debt because the spouse wants to do something in the house or the spouse wants to, buy something lavish. No, they're very calculated. They're very good with how to communicate that, because if they want to do something and you're like, that's going to cost me, that's going to cost our savings, You're able to come out of that through speaking and knowledge. But the thing is, main thing is that you are careful about debt. These people don't like getting debts. As soon as they get debt, their nervous system goes out of whack. They start getting an anxiety when Mercury is in the 6th house, because it's Mercury in the 6th house and an accountant. Mercury is an accountant. It always wants to keep everything balanced. It doesn't want to be an extreme of situation. So they don't want to be in argument with the spouse. They don't want to waste money. So if you have Mercury, yes, it's in a good space. But of course, like I said, aspects, conjunction, all these things make a difference, which we'll learn later. Okay, and which is something I'm teaching right now in my academy anyway, from A through Z at Maga Vedic Astrology Academy. So if you think that, oh, I'm not teaching holistically, well, you can go to that academy and start learning everything holistically, because by the end, you're going to see things holistically. Okay. But anyway, guys, this was my analysis of Mercury in the 6th house of the Navamsa chart. And next we're going to do, I think, Mars or Jupiter. See, I'm not going to go into absolute chronological order. I might do Ketu next, Rahu next, but they will all be complete. So I'm going to hear some comment of, oh, you missed Jupiter. Oh, you missed Ketu. Well, yes, Mr. Genius or Miss Genius, because I haven't completed them yet. Oh.